And now we're going to get into the unfortunately true news because holy fucking crap. The entire entertainment world has been.
Unfortunately true, but fuck it up.
Yep.
Let's go.
So this is going to be fun. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to read. There's just a lot, and I want to try to be as
Thorough.
thorough as possible because there is a lot here that is factual, and then there's a lot here also that is just full of rumors and innuendo, and I want to try to get into a little bit of both.
Conspiracy.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. People like to talk when they don't know because we're not like the public does not have a right to know everything. That's just the way it
Yeah.
is. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately, exactly. But anyway, Sean Combs, federal charges. What do we know? This is from the New York Times. And you may know Sean Combs better by P Diddy or Puff Daddy or so many other different names over the years. Mr. Combs was charged with running a quote-unquote criminal enterprise that includes sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, and he is being held in a troubled federal jail. The hip hop mogul Sean Combs was charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution in federal court in Manhattan on Tuesday. This was written on September 25th, so not too long ago. Actually, no, today is the
That's
25th.
today.
Yeah, this could not have been written today because I've had this up for the last few days. That date is incorrect. That's interesting. But anyway, Mr. Combs, who
Maybe
is
it
now
was
fifty-four
edited.
years old. Yeah, maybe it's an edit. Um, he is 54 years old. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, and he will remain in custody as he awaits trial. So that's the first thing to unpack. They denied bail for him.
Mhm.
So, short of escaping from prison, this man will be in custody until the end of this trial.
Mm-hmm.
So, people that have been indicted for first degree murder have been let out on bail. Lots of them.
Yep.
That's the first
Well,
thing. First thing, the very first thing you have to unpack mentally, right?
well, we all know what he could do if he was out.
Mm-hmm. So
All the
anyway,
people he could get shut up.
a magistrate judge denied his legal team's request for bail on Tuesday, citing Mr. Combs' anger issues and history of substance abuse, and the district judge upheld the decision on Wednesday, saying that Mr. Combs posed a risk of witness tampering and
Mm-hmm.
was a danger to the safety of the community. Um,
Yep.
in addition, he's clearly a flight risk as well. I mean, let's
Oh,
like
absolutely.
I'm putting my
Yeah,
2 cents in on that, no question about it.
obviously he's been known to pay people off and shut people up and blackmail. So I mean, definitely on
Yeah,
that.
myself included. Like, I'm afraid to even talk about this right now. I've been paid so much. I'm kidding. It's a joke. Um,
Same.
but anyway, Mr. Combs, who we're going to keep calling him Mr. Combs because Mr. Diddy just sounds super cringe. Mr. Combs built a career as a high profile music producer and artist, and for decades has been lauded as one of the architects of hip hop's commercial rise. But his legacy has become interlaced with accusations of sexual violence. A series of civil lawsuits over the past year accusing him of sexual assault and other allegations of sexual misconduct spilled into public view, and his business empire began to crumble as he became the subject of a federal investigation. Which surprises me that he's not running for president, to keep it real. Oh, did I say that out loud? My fault. In March, federal agents raided 2 of his homes in Los Angeles and Miami Beach. Here is what we know so far about the case against Mr. Combs. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, he is being held without bail, and he has been denied bail. Mr. Combs has been ordered held at a federal detention center in Brooklyn until trial, though his lawyers may still try to appeal that ruling further, which they will. There's no question about it.
Oh
They
yeah.
they will they will appeal.
Anything they can get.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
denial of bail will be appealed 100%. He is currently at the Metropolitan Detention Center, which is a hulking concrete structure in Brooklyn that houses more than 1,200 people. It has a reputation for poor conditions, and his lawyers have called it, quote-unquote, horrific. But federal officials have said improvements have been made. That's right, that's right. Special precautions are typically taken with high-profile defendants such as Mr. Combs. He has been assigned to a special housing unit that also includes the disgraced crypto mogul Sam Bankman-Fried, who was convicted of fraud but is appealing the verdict. So why did Mr. Combs get arrested? Prosecutors said in an indictment that Mr. Combs has been the mastermind of a sprawling criminal enterprise since at least 2008 that included his employees and engaged in kidnapping, forced labor, arson, and bribery. According to the government, Mr. Combs used force, threats, and coercion to manipulate women into what he called, quote-unquote, freak-offs, which are highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity. I call that a Tuesday night. What do I know? Anyway, in hotels and other events, in hotels and other locations that were fueled by drugs and could last for days. At these events, the government says, women were plied with drugs to keep them obedient and coerced to participate in sex with male prostitutes, some of whom were transported over state lines. Prosecutors say that Mr. Combs would watch these events, sometimes while masturbating and recording video. According to the government, Mr. Combs also used those recordings as collateral to maintain a culture of silence and obedience. They also said the women believed they could not refuse his demands without physical or emotional abuse, or without fearing that their financial or job security would be put at risk. Prosecutors alleged that Mr. Combs maintained control over women by tracking their location, dictating their appearance, monitoring their medical information, and supplying them with drugs. The federal indictment does not provide details of the arson accusation, but in other court papers, prosecutors described a sequence of events similar to those in a lawsuit that said Mr. Combs orchestrated the firebombing of a car owned by Kid Cudi. So what charges does he face? Mr. Combs was charged with one count of racketeering conspiracy, which carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. He faces one count of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years in prison, and one count of transportation for purposes of prostitution, which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. I'm going to pause right here for a second, because what we have here right now essentially is 3 counts that essentially add up to a 1 life sentence and 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like the tip of an iceberg.
It absolutely is. I was watching. I love Cinnamon Toast Ken, and he does a lot of shit like this. Like when we were talking about Dr. Disrespect, who's making a lot of videos about that, and he's really good at keeping it updated and everything. And he made a good comment on this whole thing. Like, imagine how long they've been sitting on this shit, because it's such a big thing. You have to you can't just bust them on the shit you find out, because who are you going to get to test it? I know. You have to. I mean, because you have to have enough shit where the people being blackmailed are like, okay, I can get out. You know what I mean? You can't just come with me like, hey, will you volunteer tribute?
Right.
Kind of shit. Like, you just can't. And this is absolutely the tip of the iceberg. They're going to keep looking, and I know they know shit that hasn't been announced yet.
So it just feels to me like they charged him with a couple of things just to get him off the street, so that they don't lose him, so that he doesn't get rid of witnesses. Yeah, it just feels like they needed to get him off the street because they were afraid witnesses would be put down.
And with the racketeering shit, there's a lot of shit they got to go through for that. All the companies, all of everything.
My concern is based off the 3 charges that I see right now, that doesn't seem like enough to withhold bail.
And you got to realize it says maximum sentence of life.
Yeah.
Minimum of 15 years on that one, so that one's good. And then maximum on 10. So, like, he could get off easy. Easy.
Again,
He can get.
I think this is the tip, though. I think this is just like, like if you
No, I know, but
if you don't have enough to like charge somebody with murder, but you can get them for solicitation just to get them off the street.
Right.
That's what this
I'm
feels
saying.
like. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, this right here, I mean, he could get off probably decently easy on that. That's why I'm saying, like, he could get, like, I don't know, 20 years with a chance of parole, being there for 5, get paroled because of who he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or some shit like that.
I think in this case it's going to be the opposite. Yeah.
But because we all know there's more shit.
Well, I think there's going to be one of two outcomes to this, and we'll get into that after the article. I think there's going to be one of two outcomes. But anyway, what lawsuits does Mr. Combs face? Let's find out. The descriptions of the events in the criminal complaint mirror accusations made in a lawsuit last year by Cassandra Ventura, who was Mr. Combs' former girlfriend and also an artist that was signed to his record label under the name Cassie. Go ahead.
You skipped the raid part.
I did skip the raid part. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to that. What happened during the raids? Let's go to that. So court documents revealed the new details about the raids of Mr. Combs' houses in Florida and California. Now, according to documents, quote, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Agents, that's an unquote right there. Agents also found 9 AR-15 style weapons at his Miami Beach residence, including 3 with defaced serial numbers. Now, video of Mr. Combs' home showing the aftermath of the Los Angeles raid that was published by TMZ showed belongings spilling out of cabinets and a set of empty shelves with Mr. Combs' 3 Grammys sitting on top. Now, Mr. Combs was stopped that day at an airport in the Miami area as he was preparing to leave for the Bahamas, according to a person with knowledge of the matter, who noted that federal agents took a number of electronic devices from him.
Now.
Yo, Vanessa, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Welcome in, everybody. We are in the middle of our weekly podcast with the lovely Miss Katie Lynn, and we are talking about the P Diddy situation, Sean Combs. And the fact that there are lots and lots of baby oil bottles missing from Colby's apartment, where they ended up somehow over at Sean Combs' crib. I don't know how that happened.
He was over there. He's being blackmailed, too.
Cool me. Blink if you're being blackmailed. Anyway, what lawsuits does Mr. Combs face? As we mentioned earlier, a lawsuit was made last year by Cassandra Ventura. She accused Mr. Combs of rape, physical abuse, and forced sex with male prostitutes, which was kind of the beginning of this, I feel. Like, she was the one that kind of catapulted this. The suit was...
I feel like the video that came out was like the start, really.
Yeah, and she settled a day later. She came out with the lawsuit. Then she settled. She settled with, let me see, the suit was settled just one day later with both Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura saying their dispute had been resolved amicably. CNN published surveillance footage in May that appeared to show Mr. Combs physically assaulting and kicking Miss Ventura in a manner consistent with allegations she made against him in the lawsuit, in which she described the 2016 incident at an Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. The video showed Mr. Combs grabbing Miss Ventura and throwing her to the ground, kicking her twice and beginning to drag her down the hallway by her sweatshirt. Many of us have seen that video.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Combs issued an apology on social media 2 days later. Now, keep in mind, up until this video, he had been snuffing this out, saying it didn't happen. They settled. He used the news of the settlement as proof that this didn't really happen, and all of that shit. And then there was video about it, and now all of a sudden, if you guys remember, he's backtracking, and now he's apologizing for shit that he said never happened. And now that there's video, he's backtracking, right? So anyway, he said, Mr. Combs issued an apology on social media saying it's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you got to do that. And obviously, all of us at the time knew that he was completely full of shit. Mr. Combs said in his apology video, which he posted to Instagram, quote, "I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now." Except, P. Diddy, you weren't disgusted enough to actually admit to doing it until there was proof that you fucking did it. You completely denied all these allegations, all the way up until the time that somebody posted this video through CNN, and now all of a sudden you're a disgusted human being. Okay? No. Anyway, in the months after Miss Ventura sued Mr. Combs, 6 additional women filed lawsuits alleging sexual assault, and 3 other suits included accusations of sexual misconduct. On Tuesday, a woman filed a lawsuit that said Mr. Combs and one of his bodyguards drugged and raped her at his recording studio in 2001. His lawyers are fighting all of those lawsuits in court. Now, how has Mr. Combs responded? Mr. Combs... I clicked the wrong thing. Give me a second. Mr. Combs has denied all of the allegations against him, pleading not guilty to the criminal charge. In a statement released on the day the 4th lawsuit against him was filed, Mr. Combs said, "Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth." Unquote. I would like to add to the end of that quote, unless more video shows up. Then I'll be disgusted. Anyway, after Mr. Combs was arrested, one of his lawyers, Mark Agnifilo, addressed reporters outside the federal courthouse, saying he's going to fight this with all of his energy and all of his might and the full confidence of his lawyers. And I expect a long battle with a good result for Mr. Combs. A day after the raids, another one of Mr. Combs' lawyers, Aaron Dyer, criticized the approach by Homeland Security, calling it, quote, "a gross overuse of military-level force and an unprecedented ambush." There has been no finding of criminal or civil liability with any of these accusations, Mr. Dyer said in a statement. And that is the end of this article. So, what they're alleging is essentially... So, basically what he was doing is he was, according to the government, he was coercing and manipulating women into highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity. Not with himself, but with prostitutes that he paid for. So in other words, he manipulated and coerced women that he knew, including his former girlfriend, into having sexual activity with paid prostitutes that he paid for. Not with his friends, not with himself, which is probably also something that happened as well. Wouldn't doubt.
A guy like this just has a hatred for women.
Right.
That's
and so then what he's doing is he's just doing this for his own personal enjoyment so that he can film it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
because besides blackmailing him with it, what do you get out of that?
Right, exactly. And that's where it boils down to is the blackmail. It's the blackmail that they're getting, which is where all of this is going. Now, the public innuendo is a lot of people are comparing this to the Jeffrey Epstein stuff that happened several years ago. With Epstein's Island and the list and all of that stuff that hasn't come out yet. And now,
I wonder if he was on the list and he was blackmailing Epstein.
I mean, you don't know. Like, nobody knows any of this shit. But now, apparently, there's an Epstein or a P Diddy list as well. And there are a couple of very big A-list stars that have wiped their Twitter accounts. And now people are trying to connect the two like we did with Toast and Stupid Human Tricks earlier. So I don't know if you've heard this, Katie, but Usher and Pink have both wiped every single tweet from their Twitter account since this story broke.
Did not know that.
And so a lot of people think that is directly connected to the P. Diddy stuff. that they are worried that people are going to go back into their Twitter history and see some kind of connection between them and P. Diddy that's going to get them in trouble. And that's why Pink and Usher deleted all of their...
Sure makes sense, but Pink?
I'm having a hard time. I mean, neither one... I mean, look, if there's a connection there, like, deleting your Twitter history is not going to...
No, but at least Usher's like the same kind of music.
I mean, they're both in the same circles as P. Diddy, let's be honest, right? Like, they really are. They truly are. But they're in the same circles. They are. But
Oh, A-list.
yeah, it is. But, I mean, I think that's kind of a big leap, right? I don't know, man. Like, at first when I saw it, I was like, well, maybe they're upset with Elon. Like, maybe they're just boycotting Twitter, but they didn't delete their Twitter account. Like, the account is still there. It's just there's no content.
That's very, very strange.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother thing in itself. I don't know if...
Or is it? That's what I'm saying. So, since this has come out, it's almost like the same playbook from the Epstein stuff, where they finally got him, they charged him, they locked him up, they took away bail, and then the next thing you know, Epstein was on suicide watch, and within a couple of days of us recording this, currently, P. Diddy is also on suicide watch. So I mentioned earlier, I think there'll be one of two ways that this goes. And neither one of them is going to go well for P. Diddy. He's either going to be locked up for the rest of his life.
Or he's going to kill himself.
And I put that in quotes because nobody will ever know if he actually killed himself or if somebody got to him, right? Because if the government says that somebody killed themselves, that's just fodder for people to question it, right? Like, every single suicide that the government claims is a suicide is questionable by everybody, it seems, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it would seem to me, like Jeffrey Epstein, they say Jeffrey Epstein killed himself or they say that somebody got to him to keep him quiet. Well, it would seem to me like his partner in crime there, Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever, however you pronounce her name, it seems she would know the same things. Nobody's gotten to her. She hasn't committed suicide, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's weird. I do think this is the tip of the iceberg for this guy, though.
Absolutely. I think this might go deeper than Epstein. I really could. Like, I could see it. Because, like, this is the iceberg, and this is so much.
Yeah.
Or the tip of it.
Well, I mean, there's also the innuendo between P. Diddy and Tupac and Biggie as well, right? So,
yeah.
Like, he's almost the answer to every conspiratorial thing in the music world at this point.
I know.
At some point in time, somebody's probably going to blame him for the breakup of the Beatles, right?
Yeah, I'm blaming him.
Fuck you, Diddy!
Fucked up everything.
God damn it. Don't you dare... How dare you introduce Yoko Ono to John Lennon, you piece of crap.
Piece of fucking trash.
Oh, I can't believe it, man. And all that stuff he did to Michael Jackson as well that we had to deal with. Poor Michael, bro. Yeah. I don't know. This should be interesting. What do you guys think out there? What do you think P. Diddy has done? Do you think that he deserves bail?
I think he deserves a lot worse than what he has.
Yeah.
And I really love that he's in that prison right now.
And so
really
you mentioned earlier that he's going to have it easier because of who he is, and I think you're wrong. I think you have that backwards in this case. I think they're more likely to put him away because he's famous at this point.
Well, more likely to put him away, but I'm saying with how many years he's going to get and what his sentences are. I think he's going to go, and I think he's going to go for a decent amount of time. It's just how long.
So you think they'll give him a lesser sentence because he's famous?
Possibly, and depending on who's involved, and depending on how high up this goes.
Yeah, I'm curious if there'll be any dickering, any negotiating between his lawyers and the government on naming people's names.
That's also what I'm thinking about settling.
Yeah.
P. Diddy has a history of settlement.
Because nobody knows if that's what happened with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever her name is. They don't know if any names were ever thrown about by those two. So could be very interesting stuff to find out where this goes. I just know that the whole world is going nuts. I saw the Pink and Usher things, and everybody has opinions, and everybody's got conspiracy theories, and some of them are really out there, boy. I'll tell you what. Like that's why I'm mentioning stuff like the Beatles and Michael Jackson and stuff. Like, I mean, they're really out there with this stuff. Yeah.
There's ones about Michael Jackson?
No, I just made those up.
Oh.
That's my point.
Okay, I was like, I mean, I would believe it.
My point is people are making shit up, putting them into memes, and then sending them out there like they're gospel, and people are just eating that shit up, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's why we're here, right, Katie? We're trying to tell people the actual facts of things.
We're trying to be thorough.
That's right. We're trying to show people the facts, but at the same time, giving our opinion on those facts as well.
And leaving open-ended questions.
That's right. And if you guys have answers for those open-ended questions, we have a comment section. Yeah.
Very true.
So you guys should definitely comment down below.